Hey, welcome back. Simon Lees here. I've got some pro guitar advice for you today. I'm not going to show you how to play anything or how to operate a device. I'm just going to talk to you about pickups. Pickups is something you don't usually think about when you're buying a guitar. You usually pick it up, try it out. If you like it, you buy it, you know. And if you want to change the sound, then you've got various controls on the amp, or you can use pedals. You can do that sort of thing. But sometimes you might want to change your pickups because you've had problems. The sort of thing I'm thinking is you might already have a guitar that you're happy with, and when you get the new guitar, you plug it in, and when you're going through the same rig, you might find that you get a really dull sound, for example, you know, compared to your other guitar, and you think, you've got a choice then. You can either have a completely different setup for both guitars, or you can kind of try and standardise the guitars in some way, so if you break a string halfway through a gig and you have to grab your spare guitar, it's not going to sound too different to the other guitar, you know, and it's going to respond in a similar sort of way as well. Another problem you might have, which I had early on in my guitar playing life, where when I was playing in a rock band and I got my amp up quite loud and I was standing close to it, you sometimes get a kind of feedback known as microphonic feedback, and this is where it's not the nice feedback where you kind of play a note and the note lasts forever and ever. Microphonic feedback is when you're standing close to your amp. You might even have your hand on the string so that everything's damped, and you get this horrible kind of. It's always when you've got distortion on, you know. But the only way to get rid of it, if you get that, is to turn the distortion down, and then you end up with a sound that you don't really want, you know. So that's when you know you've got problems with your pickups. Pickups that don't tend to suffer from microphonic feedback are ones where the coils, because that's what a pickup is, it's like a coil of wire wrapped around a bobbin, where the coils are dipped in hot wax and it's allowed to cool, and then the wax kind of holds the coils in place so they can't move, they can't sort of vibrate when in sympathy when you hit the guitar or when you play the strings. So when you're choosing a pickup, you want to choose one that's made by a company that uses the hot wax process, if you like, or potting as it's sometimes known. And it's also good to choose a pickup from a company where you can actually go to their website and listen to samples of what the pickups actually sound like. And that's what I did when I chose what's become my favourite pickups. They're made by Seymour Duncan, so I'll give you a little close-up there so you can sort of see. It's got the classic Seymour Duncan writing on there. And on the guitars where I felt that the sound was a little bit lacking, I've replaced them with these. What I like about Seymour Duncan is, I remember reading an article about the company back in the early 80s in a magazine, and what struck me was the guy is a fanatic. He's absolutely OCD about the techniques that he uses to make the pickups. He's like he has a very scientific sort of approach to it, and to consistency as well, to sort of making sure that all the pickups he makes in a certain line are going to be exactly the same as each other. There are various companies that they sort of. One of the cachets is that they make them by hand, and I don't think things that are made by hand are more difficult to get consistent than if they're made by a machine. If you make stuff on an assembly line, for example, you've got ways of testing the consistency and things like this. So basically, when you're shopping for a pickup and the pickup is described to give you a certain effect, or if you sort of download a sample of someone playing a guitar that uses that pickup, when you get that pickup in your guitar, you want it to sound as close as possible to what you expect it's going to sound like, you know. So I say companies that make them with a degree of accuracy and consistency are the best ones to go for, in my opinion. Now, when I was choosing, there's another thing I need to talk about. I've read over the years about people say that high power pickups are bad because the magnets are so strong that they actually pull the strings towards the pickup and they dampen your tone, or they sort of, you end up losing sustain because of this. Now, in all my years of playing, I've never come across this. This is a strange one for me. My attitude is to get the most powerful pickup you can get, because you can always turn the volume down. You know, if the sound that you're getting is too heavy or too in your face for whatever reason, you can always, it's much easier to take things away than it is to add things. You know, if it's there to start with, then you can always tailor it. You know, but if a pickup's lacking to start with, then it's always going to be lacking. You know, so and that means that you'd have to have one guitar for the ballads, one guitar for the rocky stuff, you know, and it gets complicated then. So the criteria for when I was looking for a pickup, I wanted it powerful, and I wanted it to have the closest sound that I used the most. The sound that I need the most is a distorted rhythm guitar. It's you know, obviously I do play guitar solos, but that's usually for like a small portion of the song. You know, so most of the time I'm playing rhythm guitar. So I needed a pickup that's going to give me that sound, and then to get my lead sound from that, I can use an equalizer pedal. I can just give it a little bit of a boost, just to make my guitar solos sound good, and then turn it off again when I go back to playing the chords. You know. So if you're in a similar situation, if you want a pickup where when you play a chord, so if I'll demonstrate for you. Now that's a big sounding chord, and it's big because you can hear a little bit of separation between the strings. Now that's partly because I'm kind of dragging the plectrum across, but also after I've done that, you can still hear to some extent the individual strings ringing. It's not a boxy sound, you know. It's now if I change to my lead sound, you'll hear the difference. Okay, it's a little bit louder, but there's less separation between the strings. That's because I've boosted a certain frequency that emphasises single notes and makes single notes sound a little bit thicker and a bit fuller, and it allows them to cut through the rest of the band. You know, so my guitar solos, I don't have to turn my amp up in order to get myself heard doing a guitar solo. All I'm doing is just changing the EQ slightly. I will talk about that in a bit more detail on another video, but anyway, going back to my rhythm sound. So that's the sound, the type of sound that I like. So I went on Seymour Duncan's website, I looked down the list of pickups he's got, and he had a table at the time. I haven't looked for a while, but the pickups were rated based on the output, how powerful they were. And then there was a recording, two recordings, one with a clean sound, one with a distortion sound. And when I went down the list, I found one particular pickup that ticked all the boxes for me. Basically, it was going to be perfect. You know, it's got enough crispness at the top end, but it wasn't. It didn't kind of tear your face off. You know, it wasn't piercing. Some of the signature pickups that Seymour Duncan do are obviously optimised for solos, but they're not particularly for rhythm. So what those particular guitarists must have to do is do the opposite of what I do, basically. So the lead sound is already there, but then to get to the rhythm sound, they need to use an EQ device to get rid of some of those frequencies that are kind of piercing and making it sound a bit boxy. So I'd sort of go the other way, you know. So and what you're dying to know probably is which pickups did I go for. The ones I went for in the end, they're not a signature pickup, so it's like I haven't tried to sound like anybody else. You couldn't anyway, you know. But they're called the Duncan Distortion pickups, and you can buy them in a pair, and they're called the Distortion Mayhem set, and they're actually not as expensive as some of the Seymour Duncan pickups, which is a bonus. So I've now got these pickups on 4 of my guitars. The other guitars that I've got, a lot of them just got the pickups that the guitars came with, and that's because they sound fine. You know, I've had no problems with them. You know, so if you're in that situation, it's a nice place to be. But if you do need to replace your pickups, I would seriously give the Duncan Distortions a look. You know, I've got to point out I'm not endorsed or sponsored by Seymour Duncan particularly, but it's just I have faith in the company, you know, and I have faith in what they do. So and that's why I kind of use them, you know. Okay, so what else do I need to mention? Oh yeah, if you have a twin humbucking guitar, one of the downsides of that is you never seem to be able to get a clean sound as nice as what you'd get from if you were playing a Strat or something with single coils. What I do with my guitars that have got this, and I think I mentioned this on another video actually, I arrange it so that the neck pickup is coil tapped, and the coil tap is activated using this push switch. So if I put the guitar that way around, you might be able to see what it's doing. You push it down and it sticks up, and that shows that the coil tap is in operation. I push it down again and it stays down. So it's dead easy to. You can get your local guitar shop to fit one of these for you and wire it up with the coil tap, you know. But it's dead easy to sort of kick it in and out. And what you end up with, if I put my clean sound on, the standard humbucker clean sound, with my rig anyway, sounds like this. I mean, that's quite pleasant. I have got an acoustic simulator set up there, so that's partly why it sounds as good as it does. But if I activate the coil tap, so if I just get that to there. You know, it's a really sweet sound, and you find if I just plug that into a normal clean amp, what you'd probably end up with is something sounding a bit more like a fat Strat pickup or something like that, you know, which I do like the sort of the clean Jimi Hendrix, or the cleaner side of Jimi Hendrix, and the sort of Stevie Ray Vaughan cleanish sound that you get from a powerful single coil pickup. And that's another reason for going for powerful humbuckers, you know, so that when you coil tap them, they've already got a decent amount of power, so you don't end up with like a weedy, spindly kind of weak single coil sound. It's still quite a valid single coil sound. It's still got a bit of power. I don't bother having the bridge pickup coil taps, so this switch only sort of coil taps the neck pickup, and what that means is if I wanted to go from a clean sound to a real heavy sound, as well as pressing the pedal, all I've got to do is just flick the switch down, and then I'm on the bridge humbucker, which is what I want to be on for, you know, for that sort of big heavy rhythm sound, you know. Okay, so that's my take on pickups. You know, if I say there are other pickup companies that make them sort of mass produced. DiMarzio, I mean, I've got a guitar with a DiMarzio pickup, and of course they do a whole range of them, you know, so there's bound to be one just to suit everybody. I say Seymour Duncan are always going to be my recommendation, but I mean, if you've got the chance to try one out, maybe if one of your friends has got a guitar with a certain pickup, and you're not happy with the pickups on your guitar, ask him if he borrow it, if he'll lend it you, you know. But I say I would be kind of a little bit wary about buying pickups made by a company that doesn't buy hand, because I do worry about the consistency. You know, your friend might have a guitar that's got this pickup on, and you think, oh, that sounds great, and then you buy one and put it on your guitar, and because the manufacturing process is a little bit more haphazard, it might not sound the same, you know. So yeah, so be careful with that. But that's my top advice for pickups and selecting pickups. Thanks for watching again, and I hope you can join me on the next one. Cheers.